Marcus Spears say?
Big man ballin'.
There it is.
Hey, how's it going? After another great week of some football by the XFL, making it harder to choose games now, we're going to recap what happened in week 2 as well as give predictions for week 3. If you're new to the channel, thank you for clicking on today's video. If you enjoy what you're watching, please hit the like and subscribe buttons and join us on this journey through the XFL season. So, let's talk about it. For the first Thursday night game for the XFL season, it was a hell of a nail-biter. A very close affair between two teams, with the Battlehawks earning their second road win in a row at the beginning of the year, turning a lot of heads, including mine right now, to be honest. Both offenses were firing off all cylinders at the start of the game, starting with the Seattle Sea Dragons scoring a big-time touchdown to wide receiver Ja'Cour Pearson in the first play of the second quarter. Then, the Battlehawks answered back with a 14-play drive that ended with A.J. McCarron running it in on the 1-yard line for the score, making it a 12-8 ball game at halftime. In the third quarter, it was a rough time for the Sea Dragons, with them turning over the ball twice and then fumbling the ball again on the first play in the fourth quarter. It all started with the Battlehawks punting on their first drive in the third, but Seattle's Ja'Cour, who's been great so far, muffled the punt return, and St. Louis recovered the ball to revive their drive. But later on that same drive, kicker Donnie Hagman missed for them. The Sea Dragons tried to get things going but failed by fumbling twice after that drive. In the fourth quarter, after Seattle fumbled and had back-to-back 3-and-outs, A.J. McCarron threw a dime to Hakeem Butler for a catch and run for 44 yards, taking the lead. Later in the fourth quarter, the Battlehawks missed a crucial field goal to extend that lead with 3 minutes left. With that, Ben DiNucci went 4 for 6 for 60 yards in a late crucial drive and ended it with a touchdown to Jordan Vesey from 8 yards out to tie the game 15-15. Then, for a second straight week in a row, AJ and the offense marched down the field, topping the drive with a perfect throw to Austin Proehl for a 9-yard on a crucial first down to set up Donnie Hagman to hit a game-winning field goal from 44 yards out. With that kick, they're keeping their win streak alive with 2 crazy finishes early in the season. For the first game of the weekend on Saturday, we had the Defenders traveling to play Vegas in another great defensive bout in the XFL, with 2 great defensive fronts getting 2 sacks each and making big plays, especially for the Vipers defense getting 3 fumble recoveries, with 2 of those recoveries giving the Vipers scoring opportunities at the beginning of the game and right before halftime, with Vic Beasley scooping a fumble for 25 yards after a sack from Maximilian Roberts, who had 2 sacks on the day already. Even though the Defenders were struggling offensively in the first half, they didn't change their strategy on offense at all in the second, but instead continued their legit run-heavy offense with their 4-headed running attack. It's crazy watching DC's offense because it really reminds me so much of what the Ravens were doing during Lamar's 2019 MVP season. But instead of just having one quarterback running the ball, they have 2 quarterbacks running the offense, essentially because you see both Tamu and Derek King lining up at shotgun, throwing the ball if needed, but mainly running the rock, which keeps working as Derek King got a rushing touchdown off of a read option involving Abram Smith and ran it in for 12 yards. Both running backs played well, with Raquel Armstead getting 58 rushing yards and Abram Smith getting 71 rushing yards and his first XFL touchdown on the day. With the dominance of the Defenders in the second half, along with the crazy weather in Vegas, DC literally ran with this win and dominated while eyeing on to week 3. On to the start of the Sunday games, the San Antonio Brahmas traveled to Orlando to play the Guardians, with both teams looking for their first win of the season. With a competitive first quarter having both offenses scoring on their first drives, it looked to be a promising game. That's what I get for thinking, I guess. Because after that, Orlando wasn't able to do jack squat with the football, besides punting 5 times out of their last 6 drives after scoring that touchdown in the first, along with a blocked punt in the third and a missed field goal from 56 yards out in the second quarter. After a rough game throughout, quarterback DeAndre Francois did come in later to go on a 20-play drive that was riddled with penalties throughout to end up scoring a touchdown to wide receiver Cody Latimer, though it was too late with the Brahmas offense on fire already, scoring 4 touchdowns, 3 of them coming from quarterback Jack Cohn, slinging it for the Brahmas, along with making some big running plays. The game overall wasn't too entertaining for the Guardians, and they have a lot to work on for next week. As for the Brahmas, they're obviously hyped from a big road win and looking to continue that with a tough opponent for Week 3. For the last week of Week 2, we had a game full of fireworks between 2 Texas teams, with the Arlington Renegades playing the Houston Roughnecks. Houston started the fireworks off with an interception against Drew Plitt on the first play of the game, to then score a field goal and a touchdown the drive after from Brandon Silvers to get an early 11-point lead in the first quarter. Doing so while pressuring Drew Plitt on defense, getting back-to-back sacks. In the second quarter, the Renegades were able to then fire back with a pair of touchdowns of their own from Drew Plitt. The first to wide receiver LaJuan Winningham for 4 yards out, and the other to tight end Nate Becker with a great 13-yard effort play. They did struggle during the second half, though, with Drew Plitt getting sacked and lost a fumble from John Daka. Then, after a few punts in the fourth quarter, Drew ends up throwing a pick to Sean Davis on a third down play off a tipped pass. After the second interception, Houston would go on a 15-play drive, taking near 8 minutes off the clock, ending with a 4-yard run from Borghi for the score, extending their lead 23-14 with 5 minutes left. The Renegades would not be able to get anything off their last drive, ending with a big-time sack on 3rd and 17 to force Arlington to punt and rely on their defense in the end. Houston would end up running the ball out and proving for another week why they are the best team in the XFL. Alright, and with the Week 2 recap all done, let's talk about Week 3 and my quick predictions. Starting with the Seattle Sea Dragons traveling over to the Vegas Vipers. Both these teams are 0-2, looking to get their first win of the season. I'm going to take Seattle here, though, because I feel like the offense of the Dragons are better overall with moving the ball and scoring, while they might have some fumbling issues. But the biggest question mark is going to be for the Vegas Vipers on who's going to be playing quarterback and whether or not their offense is going to be able to be productive or not. So I'm taking Seattle with this one. Moving on to the St. Louis Battlehawks traveling to the DC Defenders. Both of these teams coming into this one are undefeated through the first 2 weeks, but are both completely different teams entirely. I'm going to take the Defenders here because St. Louis's defense has allowed over 100 rushing yards each game this season so far, which is going to be troublesome when you're facing the best rushing offense in the league, especially with their Week 2 229 rushing yard game. Then we're going to be moving on to the Orlando Guardians going over to Arlington to play the Renegades. Even though the Renegades had a rough loss on the road against the best team in the XFL, they have an opportunity to get a win at home against a team that has so many questions and has been struggling ever since the first snap of the XFL season, it seems like. And then moving on to the last game of Week 3, it's going to be the San Antonio Brahmas going to play the Houston Roughnecks. Both teams coming off big wins from Week 2, but I'm going to take Houston because they seem like the more dominant defense, but I definitely see both defenses going off on Sunday night. Alright, that ends the video on the XFL Week 2 recap and early Week 3 predictions. Thank y'all for clicking on the video. If you enjoyed, make sure to, again, click the like button, subscribe, and let me know your thoughts in the comments. Thank you again, and have a good one.